This could be the end of Fox, as they say. Smartmatic suing Fox News for $2.7 billion. It's a lot more than the Dominion suit, which was around 1.2 or so. They did settle that one for $787 million. Wow. So Smartmatic knows that there's precedent. They know there's more where that came from, shall we say. Now, don't get me wrong. Fox News can handle it as a company. I do believe they made around $15 billion last year. Of course, in terms of the actual profitability of the company, I think it was around 1.5. Don't quote me on the numbers. That's just off the top of my head. But if they're making profit-wise about $1.5 billion, it's sizable. But if they have to pay $2.7 billion, it's going to take a couple years to make up that loss, right? You see where I'm going. So this is not a good thing financially for the company. One would anticipate that if there's a big hit, if they do have to pay a big fee, then the stock price is going to crater, at least for a little bit, right? For a little bit, because that would be, less dividends, and you're going to see that reflected in the earnings because they'd be taking such a big hit. So again, the judge in New York, we love those New York judges, right? Given the green light here to move forward with the Smartmatic suit. Now, why this is of significance is it was a big deal with Dominion. So you recall, right? Let's go back to 2020, and there were a lot of people on air on Fox News. Rudy Giuliani was one of them. Sidney Powell was another, saying, look, we don't think that this election was on the up and up. We think that there's some flaws within the software systems of these particular companies that were making these voting machines. And allegedly, none of this was really vetted. So they put this information out there, and look, it's Rudy Giuliani, right? He's counsel to the president. It's Sidney Powell. So from a journalist perspective, it's news. You get Rudy Giuliani saying this, Sidney Powell saying this. It is news. And so I understand and I empathize with why they were putting them on and trying to hear more and trying to understand more. The question becomes, and this is what Smartmatic is going to have to try and prove, at what point did maybe they think this is all bogus and we don't really think there's any there? Tucker Carlson didn't think there was any there. There are text messages between him and Laura Ingraham and John Hannity, and everybody's like, yeah, there's no there, but it's good for ratings, basically. So if Smartmatic is able to prove that no one actually believed this CRAP, but instead they were just doing it to get a grand slam on the ratings, then Fox is going to have a problem. If they're able to prove that management was just concerned about ratings, then yes, they're going to have a problem. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I don't believe for 2 seconds that Maria Bartiromo didn't believe in it. I think she believed everything that Sidney and Rudy were saying. And so in fairness to her, in fairness, journalist to journalist, if you actually are interviewing someone who is a counsel to the president, that's a big deal, right? He's got a big position. Sidney had a big position, and this is what they're saying, then it is news. And you should be able to openly talk about it. You shouldn't have to worry about this threat of Smartmatic coming down. But, and this is the big but, okay? If management knew better, or if other anchors within the system that were speaking to management and everybody felt a consensus that, Sidney was high and Rudy was high and blah, blah, blah. And yet you aired these things anyway without the other side of the story, specifically when it comes to Smartmatic. I didn't realize this. I just learned this today. They were actually only involved in one particular county out in LA. So they didn't even have their machines widespread throughout the country. Then are you doing sort of a defamation exercise? I mean, you are hurting a company, you are hurting its reputation, and are you doing so recklessly? In other words, is this a kind of malpractice as a journalist or as an organization? This is what Fox is going to be facing, because again, if management and some of the more senior anchors there, I mean, let's face it, Tucker had a big show there at 8 o'clock, we're saying this, that, and the other, and no one was sort of reining anything in or asking to have the other side of the story, then Fox is going to have some problems. And if Fox has some problems, I think that they're going to be looking at mounting legal fees. They're going to be potentially looking at a big judgment there. I mean, again, they're asking for $2.7 billion, which is a lot more than the 780 some odd million, nearly $1 billion that Dominion got, but the stock tanked after that one, right? The stock was not happy. We'll see where this company's heading. I mean, this is one problem for Fox, but there are other problems. There are other problems just given where this entire medium is heading, and it's heading far away from cable mainstream. it's heading right over here to where you are with me right now. So I appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe, all that good stuff. Make a comment. Again, I'll be getting to the comments later in the program. But this is a very sort of organic, shifting sector. And the media business as a whole is really in for some more massive changes. So the last thing, ladies and gentlemen, that Fox needs about now is this Smartmatic suit. But yes, it's coming back to haunt it. I don't love it because just as a journalist, I want to be free to talk about whatever I want to be free to talk about. But I also think you do have a responsibility. You just can't actually, go out there and you can't print lies, right? And if you have any information that would suggest otherwise, it's putting everybody in a really bad spot if you're only giving one side of the story. And in this case, it turns out that the story didn't have a whole lot of there because Smartmatic was only in one county. So again, if you're going to assume everything terrible about Smartmatic, just remember it's only in one county in LA. So it's a lot. It's a lot of damage that was done to the brand, and they do have a leg to stand on, like it or not.